You sit down at a back table in a crowded, dimly lit restaurant. The chairs are packed tight. People are talking over each other. Slowly, you notice a tightness in your chest. The walls feel like they're closing in, and your brain starts scanning for the fastest exit. Now, imagine the exact opposite environment. You are standing entirely alone in the center of a massive, empty concrete plaza. You are completely exposed, and yet your heart rate spikes, and you feel the same physical panic, the exact same urge to flee. This reaction is architectural anxiety, a survival reflex triggered by the physical design of the space surrounding you. Here is the paradox. Architecture exists to provide us with shelter, but somewhere along the line, the modern built environment evolved into a psychological obstacle course. To understand why our buildings make us panic, we have to look at the industrialization of the 19th century. As populations swelled to massive proportions, cities introduced an entirely new, overwhelming scale to daily human life. Patients began reporting cold sweats, heart palpitations, and petrifying shyness when crossing these new, grand boulevards. Doctors codified these symptoms as agoraphobia and claustrophobia, naming them uniquely urban phenomena. The emergence of these conditions suggests that the physical dimensions of the city were evolving much faster than our nervous systems could adapt to them. For modernist urban planners like Le Corbusier, the cramped, dark alleys of the past were breeding grounds for disease. They believed the cure lay in absolute transparency. They championed a radical design shift: infinite, wide-open urban voids, vast concrete plazas, and towering buildings made entirely of glass that prioritized natural air and sunlight. But this design has a critical biological flaw. Removing visual boundaries strips away our evolutionary need for shelter. A human standing in a transparent, boundless void feels permanently exposed from every possible angle. By tearing down walls and substituting the traditional enclosed home with the vast transparent plaza, the modern city traded physical infection for psychological exposure. If wide open spaces trigger one extreme of architectural anxiety, modern transit systems trigger the other. They're high-speed, perfectly sealed environments where escape is mathematically impossible. Older train designs protected passenger neurology by breaking carriages down into small, isolated compartments. These sliding doors and curtains guaranteed a pocket of absolute privacy. Modern transit discards that completely. To maximize passenger density and security, we now ride in open-plan, airplane-style seating with locked, unopenable windows. This discomfort is driven by lines of sight, the angles at which individuals observe one another. Mapped onto open-plan seating, this architecture forces you directly into the visual field of dozens of strangers at once, with zero possibility for retreat. Modern transit mathematically eliminates your physical autonomy. It literally turns every single commuter into a trapped subject of inescapable observation. You don't have to be sealed inside a metal tube to experience this. The exact same mechanics apply to everyday leisure spaces, like deep restaurant booths or the constrained chair at a hair salon. This is the concept of forced retention. It occurs when a physical layout is paired with an ongoing service or social convention that effectively traps you in place. When you order food at a restaurant, you enter a social contract. You cannot easily stand up and walk out of a crowded dining room while your meal is being cooked. You are held hostage by politeness. Spatial layouts that leverage these social rules effectively strip away your agency to flee without ever needing a physical lock. Modern city planners and authorities constantly try to engineer away our anxiety through extreme control measures. They install surveillance cameras, infrared motion detectors, and build gated residential zones to guarantee our security. Take the neighborhood of Amsteldorp in Amsterdam. It is built geographically in a valley, possessing only one sloped exit, and relies heavily on tight social surveillance to monitor exactly who enters and leaves the community. But this type of security utopia routinely fails. By engineering a perfectly sterile, transparent environment, planners simply replace the fear of crime with the claustrophobia of being constantly monitored. Absolute security can only be guaranteed in an airtight, bulletproof, closed space. In terms of design, moving toward that perfect safety means moving closer and closer to the isolation of solitary confinement. Because the architecture itself is restrictive, citizens actively bypass these systems every day through subtle physical and behavioral hacks. Some commuters combat the exposed lines of sight on modern transit by erecting a cardboard barrier around their seat, forcing the lost privacy of the old train compartment back into existence. Others use softer materials, building a makeshift tent to instantly block out the surrounding visual exposure of a room. Behavioral hacks can defeat forced retention too. In that restaurant scenario, you can simply pay for your meal the exact moment you order. By settling the social contract up front, you instantly retain the total physical freedom to run if you need to. On a macro level, you can rebel against the predetermined choreography of the city grid entirely. This is the concept of the dérive, purposefully wandering the streets without a clear destination, letting the mood of the environment guide you, rather than a rigid urban plan. The ultimate physical manifestation of this spatial hacking is parkour. The city planner dictates a brick wall is an obstacle. The practitioner decides it is a customized escape route. Our built environment is packed with hidden rules, but by recognizing the restrictive lines of sight, the spatial traps, and the forced retention of our cities, we gain the agency to break their choreography and actively carve out a psychological safe zone on our own terms.